This call is now being recorded.
Okay. Good morning. So today we will start with the next point related to the Simo chart. So before starting that particular Simo chart, just we will revise the things within 1 or 2 minutes, whatever we have covered in the last lecture. So in the last lecture, we have started with the new point, which is called as a micro motion study. So in that particular micro motion study, we have discussed about the use of that particular micro motion study concept in the industry, because what happen, whatever the activities present or whatever the activities we are doing, so in that particular activities many times there is a small repetitive movements are taking place. So in order to go for the calculation of that particular movements, so that micro motion study concept is implemented in the industry. And what is the requirement of that particular micro motion study? Whatever the big task is there, that big task we are going to divide into the number of tasks. That means, for example, if we are operating, or if we are doing the operation on the lathe machine, on that particular lathe machine, whatever the number of activities we are performing, doing the operation on the lathe machine, this is the single task. But in that particular single task, sometimes we are working on that particular holding the jaw, sometimes we are working on the holding the tool, sometimes we are working on the tool post. So like that, so many operations we are doing, that means so many activities we are doing on that particular lathe machine, and we have to go for the recording of each and every activity. So in case of a micro motion study, what we have done, we are using one camera, we are using one camera in order to record that particular all the movements, or that concept is called as a motion pictures. Means if we are performing any activity, that activity can be recorded by using the recording devices, which is called as a camera, and that particular concept is called as a motion picture. In addition to that, while performing that particular activity, some timing devices are also used. So in case of a micro motion study concept, whatever timing devices we are using, that device is called as a micro chronometer. So the micro chronometer is one of the timing device which is used to measure the time of that particular small repetitive movements. But whatever the recording we have done, maybe by using that particular camera, whatever the pictures we have recorded, whatever the timings we have recorded, all those particular pictures, all that particular timings, it can be represented by one of the charts, and that chart is called as a Simo chart. So in case of a that particular micro motion study, what we are doing initially, we are go for the recording. During the recording, we are measuring the time, and at the end, we are preparing one film, and that film we are playing on the projector. And while observing that particular film, we can go for the detailed analysis, and from that particular detailed analysis, we have to observe that wherever the repetitive movements are taking place, small repetitive movements, that repetitive movements can be eliminated. But in order to represent that particular film, or in order to represent that particular time on one of the charts, so this Simo chart is developed. So what is the long form of this particular Simo chart? Simultaneous motion cycle chart. The long form of the Simo chart is simultaneous motion cycle chart, and it is used recording for the micro motion study. That is, Simo chart is a recording technique for the micro motion study. So whatever the results, whatever the data we have calculated from that particular micro motion study concept, all that particular data, it can be represented by using one of the chart, and that particular chart is called as a Simo charts. So the Simo chart is related to the left hand and right hand chart. The Simo chart is related to the left hand and the right hand chart, the two-handed process charts. So whenever we are starting with the first recording techniques, that is charts, in that particular charts we are having one of the types, that is two-handed process charts. So what that particular two-handed process charts indicate? That two-handed process charts indicates the simultaneously, if your left hand is working, your right hand is working, so that particular movements of the left hand and the right hands are recorded by using the two different charts. That means the separate chart is there for the left hand, separate chart is there for the right hand, and both the movements are represented by using the different charts. That concept is called as a two-handed process charts. For example, if I have to go for the assembly of a nut and bolt, if I have to go for the assembly of nut and bolt, what I am doing, At that time assembly, my left hand is also doing the some of the operations, my right hand is also doing some of the operations. So whatever the number of movements are taking place by the left hand, the separate chart is developed for the left hand. At the same time, whatever the number of movements are taking place by that particular right hand, so that particular movements can be represented by using the separate chart. That means for the left hand separate chart is there, for the right hand separate charts are there. We are performing only one operation, but in order to perform that particular operation, utilization of left hand is also taking place, utilization of the right hand is also taking place, and both the movements are recorded by using the two different charts, and that concept is called as a two-handed process charts. Similar to that chart only, here the Simo chart is also related to the left hand and the right hand. Simo chart is also related to the left hand and the right hand, because in case of a micro motion study concept, if we are working on any machine, let us take an example of drilling machine or maybe the lathe machine. If we are working on any machine, at that time the movements of the left hand is also taking place, movements of the right hand is also taking place. But in case of a micro motion study concept, whatever the small movements are taking place, short cycle, maybe your object will be completed in maybe 5 to 10 minutes. So during that particular 5 to 10 minutes, whatever the small movements are taking place by the left hand and whatever the small movements are taking place by the right hand, that movements can be recorded by using the micro motion study. And at that time the utilization of the left hand is also taking place and utilization of the right hand is also taking place. So in case of a micro motion study concept also, this Simo chart represents the two-handed process chart. That means whatever the small movements are taking place by the left hand, it is also recorded. Whatever the small movements are taking place by the right hand, it is also recorded. Also, it shows the common time cycle simultaneous movements performed by the two hands of an operator. Again, it is same. So this particular Simo chart, it will shows the simultaneous movements performed by the two hands. In the two-handed process charts also, we are representing the simultaneously movements are taking place by the by that particular operator. In case of a Simo chart also, we are representing the simultaneous activities or the simultaneous movements performed by the both hands of the operator. But whatever the previous two-handed process charts we have discussed, that previous two-handed process charts will be applicable for the big cycles. Maybe that product is taking the 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour to convert the raw material into the finished goods. But in case of a micro motion study or in case of a Simo charts, so whatever the activities we are performing or whatever the work we are doing, for to complete that particular work, very small amount of time is required. Maybe your raw material is converted into the finished goods within 10 to 15 minutes or maximum up to the half hour. So again, whatever the simultaneous movements we are performing by that particular two hands, it can be represented by using the Simo charts. And this particular Simo chart is used for the short cycles and the repetitive jobs. This line is very important. This Simo chart is used for the short cycles and the repetitive jobs. Short cycle means your work can be completed in minimum time, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, maximum up to the 30 minutes. That means your raw material is converted into the finished goods within the short cycles, and at that time wherever the repetitive jobs are taking place, means sometimes we are doing the packaging, sometimes we are doing the repetitive use of the tools, sometimes we are go for the inspection. So for the inspection, again and again we have to go for the inspection. If I have to change the tool, again and again I am changing the tools. So whatever such types of the repetitive jobs are there, that repetitive jobs can be represented by using this particular Simo chart. Because if we have to change the tool of any machine, or if I have to install the new tool on that particular machine, so only small movements are taking place on that particular machine. Maybe hold the tool on that particular jaw or on that particular tool post. Then there are some another operations we have to perform. Maybe you have to lock that particular tool. So such types of the small movements are taking place in that particular repetitive jobs. So this particular Simo chart is useful for the short cycles. Short cycle in the sense your operation can be completed in minimum time, maximum up to the 30 hours. So maximum up to the 30 minutes. And the repetitive job. So which types of the repetitive jobs are taking place? For example, this particular Simo chart is fine to the applications like packaging. If I have to go for the packaging of the product, same task we have to repeat again. New product is coming, we have to go for the packing. Again new product is coming, again we have to go for the packaging. Again the new product is coming, again we have to go for the packaging. So that means same process we are repeating again and again. So that particular movements can be recorded by using this particular Simo chart. Then second application is the repetitive use of the jig and fixtures. So in the industry or in any type of machines, we are using the jig and fixtures. So many times we have to use that particular jig and fixture again and again. If one operation is performed, again I have to use that particular jig and fixture for further operation. Again for the second operation, again I have to use that particular same jig and fixture for the further operation. That means the repetitive movements are taking place in order to use that particular jig and fixture. Again one more application is the inspection. Inspection means in order to check the dimensions. If the product is manufactured and if I have to check the dimensions, if I have to go for the inspection, I am taking that particular measuring equipments. Maybe I will take the vernier caliper, I will take the scale, I will take the micrometer, screw gauge. Again and again I am taking that particular all the inspection devices for the measuring purpose. That means here again the repetitive movements are taking place. New component is coming, I have to go for the measurement. Again the second component is coming, again I have to go for the same measurement. Again the third component is coming, again I have to go for the measurement of the dimension. That means whatever the repetitive movements are taking place in the short cycle, whatever the repetitive movements are taking place in the short cycles, so that repetitive movements it can be represented by using this particular Simo charts. Therefore this particular Simo chart is also representation of, or it is also related to the two-handed process charts, in which the movement of the left hand and the movement of the right hand is also recorded. Also this particular Simo chart is useful for the short cycles and the repetitive jobs. So whatever the operation is performing, or whatever the operations we are completing in the minimum time, so for in that case that Simo chart is used. Also whatever the repetitive movements are taking place by the left hand or the right hand, that repetitive movements are also recorded by using this particular Simo charts. So in the yesterday's lecture we have discussed about this particular figure, older method and the improved method. So in the older method we can see how the repetitive movements are taking place, and that repetitive movements can be represented by using that particular white color. Maybe that operator is working on any type of machine or any one machine, and during operation how the repetitive movements are taking place, that can be represented by that particular white lines. But afterwards if I have gone for the modification in the improved method, you will get the detailed analysis in which whatever the repetitive operations are taking place, that all the operations are eliminated. Therefore if we compare the figure number 1 and the figure number 2, in figure number 1 maximum white lines are there, but in the figure number 2 very less quantity, or in very less quantity that particular white lines are present. That means all the repetitive movements are eliminated. Sometimes somewhere that repetitive operations are taking place because this is the requirement of the job, but wherever it is possible to eliminate all such types of the repetitive movements, we have to eliminate it and we have to develop the new methods. So this is the Simo charts we have discussed. So whatever the data you will get from the micro motion study, maybe you will get that particular time of the each and every activity. Then we are recording all those particular videos. So all that particular activities, it can be represented by using one of the charts, and that chart is called as a Simo charts. Now these are the standard symbols. So if I have to represent whatever the movements are taking place by the left hand and whatever the movement is taking place by the right hand, all that particular movements can be represented in the form of chart. That chart is called as a Simo charts. But which types of the movements are taking place? For example, these are the symbols. If any operator is go for the searching, then this is the first symbol. If he will go for the finding, then this is the second symbol. If he went to receive the job, or he went to receive the raw material, then this particular select symbol is used. Then grasp is also one of the symbol. That means if we are moving to take the component in your hand at that time, that particular movement can be represented by the grasp. Then second symbol is hold. If I have to hold the component, or if I have to hold the tool on that particular tool post, or if I have to hold the component on that particular machine, so for the holding purpose, these particular symbols are used. So these are the number of symbols which are used in the micro motion study, because whatever the activity performed by the left hand and whatever the activity performed by the right hand, all those activities can be represented in the symbolic manner. Therefore, in order to represent that particular all the activities performed by the left hand and the right hand, these particular symbols are used for the proper representations. So these are the symbols. The symbols are given at the left side and their information is given at the right side. So for example, if I have to go for the assembly, so here at the bottom side for the assembly purpose, this particular H sign is used. Then for the disassembly purpose, this particular symbol is used. If I have to go for the inspection, then this particular symbol is to be used. If I have to release the load, then this particular symbol is used. If I have to go for the unavoidable delay, that means in between some of the operations, maybe your tool will be break. So such types of the unavoidable delay can be represented. Some avoidable delay, that means if I have to change the tool, I will remove the first tool, I will attach the second tool. So such types of the delays are called as a avoidable. Then plan, rest position, it can be represented by using this particular symbols. So these are the different symbols which are used in the micro motion study, in which the movements taking place by the left hand and the right hand can be represented by using this particular symbols. Now we'll discuss about the Simo charts. So what is the particular nature of that particular Simo chart? So this is the representation of the Simo chart. So you can see here which operation we are performing. Assembly of the gel pen. Simple operation I have taken. Assembly of gel pen. You know about the pen or gel pen. So if I have to go for the assembly of the gel pen, because in case of that particular gel pen, so many components are there. That is one big barrel is there. Then at the front side, one cap is there. At another side, one more cap is there. And in that particular gel pen, we have to insert the refill also. So if I have to go for the assembly of that particular gel pen, so whatever the activities performed by the left hand and the right hand during the assembly of the gel pen, that can be represented by using this particular Simo chart. So for this particular assembly, very small movements are taking place by the left hand and the right hand. This is not a big operation. This is a very simple operation. But during that, some repetitive movements are taking place, and that particular work can be completed within short cycle. So such types of the short cycles, small operations can be represented by using the Simo charts. So the operation is selected, assembly of the gel pen, film number, that is operator is performing that operation. Then here you have to give the operator number. Then part number, we have to give the number of part number, on which date we are performing this operation, that date we have to implement here. Then method, presented method or the proposed method, whether we are using the presented method or whether we are developing the new method, that we have to select. Charted by, who is preparing this particular charts, the name of that particular person we have to write here, and whatever the time we are measuring by using the timing devices, that time will be measured in the second. So if you go through this particular chart, so here at the first, this is the movement of the left hand. Okay, and whatever the activities are performed by the left hand, that activities can be represented by the second column, which is called as a symbol. And whatever the time is required for the left hand, that time can be represented by using the third column. Then at the center, this is the total time required to perform the operation. Again, here at the last column, the movements taking place by the right hands are represented. Then second last column, symbol is represented. Whatever the activities performed by the right hand, that activities can be represented in the symbolic manner. And then one more time column is given. That time is indicating that the time required to perform the operation by the right hand. That means the first three columns, 1, 2, and 3. These three columns are applicable for the movements of the left hand, and from last three columns, again this is the 1, 2, and 3. Last three columns, it represents the movements taking place by the right hand, and whatever the central column is there, which is represented by the total time, this total time represents the time required to perform the operation. Therefore, if I will start with the first step, now if I have to go for the assembly of gel pen, so what I will do, initially I will move towards that particular components to take in my hand. So first movement is represented by the left hand to cap. My left hand is moving to take that particular cap in the left hand. Simultaneously, my right hand is moving to take that particular barrel. You know, let us assume the construction of the pen. Whatever the middle big portion is there, that middle big portion is called as a barrel. at the bottom side, from where we are writing, that one conical shape is there, that conical shape or that conical cap, it is called as a cap. And at the back side also some caps are present. Sometimes in some of the gel pens the cap is present at the bottom side also, that's conical cap only. At the back side the cap will not be available. But let us assume that in this particular gel pen only one cap is available and only one barrel is there. So the first position is recorded by using this particular chart, that is two cap. My left hand is moving towards the cap to receiving that particular cap. It is represented by the TE symbol. If I have to take that particular cap in my hand, it is represented by the TE symbol. How much amount of time is required? 12 seconds are required. Similarly, at the right hand, again, my right hand is moving towards that particular barrel to take that particular barrel in my hand. Again, it is represented by the same TE symbol. And how much amount of time is required? 12 seconds are required. Then, second movement, grasp the cap. So I can take this particular cap in my hand, and that grasp movement, taking movement, it can be represented by the capital G. How much amount of time is required? 10 seconds are required. Simultaneously, right hand is also performing the operation. What is that? Grasp the barrel. You have to take that particular barrel in your hand. Again, it is represented by the capital G. How much amount of time is required? 10 seconds. Then second, move to assembly. So whatever that cap is I have taken in my hand, I have to take that particular cap, or I will start moving towards the assembly, and that assembly can be represented by the TL. How much amount of time is required? 10 seconds are required. Simultaneously, your right hand is also performing some of the activity, but it is representing move to the position. If I have to go for the assembly, that barrel and that cap I have to keep in front of each other. Both should be coaxial to each other. Then and then only I can go for the assembly. If both are not coaxial to each other, then it is not possible to go for the assembly. So what I will do, I will take this particular cap and the barrel in front of each other, and their movements are represented by this particular TL symbol. How much time is required? 10 seconds are required for the left hand, 10 seconds are required for the right hand. Then last movement is represented by the hold the cap. We have to hold that particular cap in the left hand, and that holding is represented by the capital H. How much amount of time is required for the holding? 10 seconds. And at that time, position the barrel in the cap. So during the assembly, what we are doing, that cap we are holding at the left hand, and that barrel we are rotating maybe in the clockwise direction and the anti-clockwise direction. You can assume the things. If I have to go for the assembly of any pen, what I am doing, either cap or either barrel, I will keep in the fixed position, and another moment or another component I will move in the clockwise direction or the anti-clockwise direction. So here the cap is in holding position, and I will rotate that particular barrel in that particular cap. That means I am doing the assembly. For the assembly, how much amount of time is required? Here the movements taking place by the right hand are the 10 seconds, and movements taking place for holding the caps are the 8 seconds, and near about 42 seconds are required to go for the assembly of the gel pen. So through this particular chart, what I am representing, the whatever the activities performed by the left hand, they are represented at the left direction. That activities can be represented in the symbolic manner, and also time required to perform that activity is also represented by the third column. Similarly, at the right side of the charts, so whatever the activities are performed by the right hand, that activities can be represented in this particular vertical manner. That activities can be represented in the form of symbol, and to perform that particular activity, how much amount of time is required? That time is represented by using this particular third column. And at the center, how much amount of total time is required? How much amount of total time is required to perform that particular task? That total time can be represented by using this particular central column. And at the end, whatever the answer you will get, 42, that 42 represents, in order to go for the assembly of the gel pen, 42 seconds are required, and that 42 second includes time required for the left hand and time required for the right hand also. That means we can finish the assembly of gel pen within 42 seconds only. That means this cycle is very short. 42 seconds means it is less than 1 minute also. That means this particular operation is very short. Therefore, for such types of the short cycles, such types of the Simo charts are used. Once the assembly of first pane is over, again we are performing the same activity. Again your left hand and right hands are moving to take the new cap, to take the new barrel. Again they are come near to each other. Again I will keep that particular cap in the left hand. Again I will rotate the barrel in clockwise and anti-clockwise direction. Again assembly is over. Again third time, again my left hand and right hands are moving towards the cap and the barrel. That means repetitively the movements of the left hand and right hands are taking place, and that repetitive movements and their time, it can be represented by using this particular Simo charts. So this is the basic applications of the micro motion study. Okay, so please keep in mind, whatever the repetitive movements are taking place during the assembly of gel pen, that repetitive movements are represented by using this particular Simo charts. In addition to that, whatever the time required for the left hand and time required for the right hand, that timing is also represented by using this particular chart. In addition to that, whatever the movements we are performing, maybe left hand and right hand, that all the movements can be represented by using one of the symbol. In this particular previous figure, in this particular here, we are having this particular symbols. So whatever the movements are taking place, that movements are represented here in the form of symbolic manner. For example, for assembly, it can be represented by TL. For holding, it can be represented by capital H. To grasp that particular barrel, it can be represented by capital G. If I am moving to take that particular barrel, that movement can be represented by the capital T. So such types of the symbols are used in order to represent all the movements in case of a Simo charts. So the difference between the two-handed process charts and the Simo charts, the two-handed process charts are used for the big cycles, wherever the number of operations are performing. But in case of a Simo charts, for same operation, whatever the repetitive movements are taking place by the left hand and the right hand, that repetitive movements along with time, it can be represented by using the Simo charts. So this particular Simo chart is used for the proper representation of the micro motion study. Okay, so this is about the Simo charts. Now we'll discuss about the next point, which is called as a critical examination. What is meant by the critical examination? So here the simple definition I have written. The critical examination means applying set of questions to the recorded data for the selected method. So sometimes we have to go for the modification of the method. Sometimes we have to go for the modification of the method. At that time, during that particular modifications, we have to go for the critical examination. Critical examination means we are applying the set of questions to that particular recorded data for the selected method. So whatever the method we have selected for the modification purpose, whatever the method we have selected for the modification purpose, to that particular method we have to apply some of the questions or set of the questions. That particular process is called as a critical examinations. And in this particular critical examination, it involves which process we are doing? Analyze the facts and information critically. Whatever the method we have selected for the modification purpose, to that particular method we have to apply the number of questions, and during applying that particular questions we have to analyze the fact, what exactly happening in that particular method, why we have to go for the modification, which types of the information you will get from that particular method. So such types of the processes we are doing in this particular critical examination, and through this particular process you will get the alternative solution. If I will go for the modification in the existing method, then and then only I can go for the alternative solutions, or sometimes I can develop the new method also. If I will do the modification in the existing process, after the modification you will get the alternative solution. You will get the alternative solution, or sometimes we can go for the development of the new method also. But in order to go for the development, in order to go for the modification to that particular old method, we have to apply the set of questions. Why we have to go for the modification, how we have to go for the modification, who is going to do the modification. So such types of the questions can be asked in this particular critical examinations, and it has 5 W's. In case of a critical examination, it has 5 W's and 1 H. What is mean by the 5 W's? Means we are asking the question in the form of why, when, where, who, and what. 5W means one is why, another is when, third is where, fourth is who, and fifth is what. Why we have to go for the modification? This is the first question. When we have to go for modifying that particular existing process, where we are performing that particular modification, who is modifying that particular method, and what modification we are doing. So these are the 5 types of questions we are asking to that particular existing method, and one H is there. Capital H means how. If I have to go for the modification, how the modification will be done. So such types of the 5W and one question will be asked to this particular examination. If I am applying such types of the questions during the modification, that concept is called as a critical examination. Please keep in mind, if I am applying 5WH questions and 1H question to the existing method or during the development of the new method, that concept is called as a critical examination. So in this particular critical examination, we are asking the 2 types of question. One is the primary question and second is the secondary questions. In primary question, which types of the questions are asking? In the secondary question, which types of the questions are asking? That part is also very important. So in case of a primary questions, it represents that answers to this show up the necessity of carrying out the activity. Why we have to go for the modification? If I have selected any method for the modification purpose, if I have selected any method for the modification purpose, why I have to go for the modification? Who is doing the modification? When the modification will be carried out? Which type of modifications I have to do? So such types of the simple questions will be asked in the primary questions. But in case of a secondary questions, if I have to go for the alternative methods, that means already we are doing the modification, but through this particular modifications, that method will not be accepted. So whatever the modifications we are doing, after the modification also, that method will not be implemented. Then I have to go for the alternative solution. So such types of the alternative type of solutions, whatever we are doing, such types of the questions will be asked in the secondary questions. Therefore, please keep in mind, in case of a critical examinations, we are asking the set of the questions. Therefore, this particular method is called as a critical examination. In that, we are asking the 5WH questions and 1EH question. 5WH means why, when, where, who, and what. These are the 5WH questions, and there is only one H, and that capital H represents the how. Okay, so such types of the questions will be asked in the critical examination. In addition to that, there are 2 types of the questions are there. One is the primary question and another is the secondary question. Now in detail, we'll discuss about the primary questions. So just now we have discussed the primary questions tells that answer to this show up the necessity of carrying out the activity. Necessity of carrying out the activity. And how the question will be asked in the primary question, you can see here. So what is the first aspect? Purpose. What is to be done and why it is to be done? What is to be done? Question number 1. If I have selected any method for the modification process, what is to be done? What type of a modification I have to go for? What is to be done? Which types of modifications I have to go for? So this will be asked by this particular question number 1. For the same concept, same aspect, second question is asked, why it is done? If I have to go for the modification, no problem, I will do the modification. But why we have to go for this particular modification? So it can be represented by using the second question, why it is done. Then second, place, where the modification is going on. So the second aspect is place. The question number 1 is where it is done, at which location the modification is going on. But the second question will be asked like that, why is it done at that place only? If I have selected any place for the modification purpose, so why that particular place is selected for the modification? So that question is also asked during the critical examination. Then second aspect is sequence, when it is done. Sequence means when it is done, at what time, when, whether I have to do for the modification today, or whether I have to do modification by the tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. So such types of the questions will be asked like that, when it is done. But what will be your second question? Why is it done at that moment only? If I am doing the modification today only, why today? Why not tomorrow? If I am doing the modification tomorrow or day after tomorrow, why tomorrow or day after tomorrow? Why we cannot perform today only? So such types of the questions will be asked in the this particular sequence. Then person, who does it? If I am doing the modification, who is doing that particular modification? Whether skilled operator is doing, whether supervisor is there doing, or whether unskilled operator is doing. So such types of the questions will be asked in the fourth aspect, that is who does it, who is performing that particular modification, and why that person only. If I have selected skilled operator for the modification, why the skilled operator is selected? Why not unskilled operator is selected? Why not the supervisors are selected? So in this particular person, two types of question is there: who is performing the modification, that name of the person, and why that person is selected for the modification. And last question is means how is it done, and last is why is it done by that means how is it done. If I have to go for the modification, how the modification will be done, that means we are taking about the future plan. If I have to go for the modification, how the modification will be there, how we can performing that particular modification. That means initially I will do the modification in the operation, then second time I will do the modification in the inspections, then third times I will do the modification in the delays, fourth time I will do the modification in the transportation devices. So like that, how it is to be done, that plan we are going to take in this particular last aspect, which is called as a means. So the question number 1 and the question number 2 both are correlated with each other. Question number 1 and the question number 2 both are correlated with each other. In question number 1, all the 5 WHs are present. That is, in question number 1, what it is present, where is present, when is present, who is present, how it is also present. But in the question number 2, only why this particular question will be asked. So in this particular question answering, whatever the critical examinations we are applying, all the 5 WH are present. Along with that particular 5 WH, 1 H means capital H, it represents the how. This how question is also present. So if I will apply such types of the questions to that particular method, so I will get all the types of answer. If I will ask this set of the questions to the any method, at that time I will get all the types of information. So such types of the primary questions or such types of the critical examinations we have to implement in the industry in order to get all the types of information in all respect. Then secondary questions, if I have to go for the alternative methods, the first question is related to the, if I am performing the modification on any method, during that particular modification, which types of the questions will be asked? It is represented by the primary question. But the secondary question, it represents the alternative method. If I have done the modification, after modification also, I cannot possible, or it is not possible to implement that particular modified method. After modification also, it is not possible to implement that particular modified method for further operation. In such cases, I have to go for the alternative methods or the alternative solution. If the method number 1 will not be applicable, I have to go for the second method. If the second method is also not applicable, I have to go for the third method. That means I have to keep second method in my hand in order to go for the further modifications. So here again the second questions are asked: purpose, places, sequences, persons, and the means. But in case of a purpose, what else can be done? If the previous method is not available, what I can done for the further modification? Place, where else it can be done? At which location we can perform the that particular modification? Sequence, when it is to be done? whether we have to take it by tomorrow, day after tomorrow, or today only. Person, who else can do it? If I have to go for the alternative solution, which person can be provide there, or which person we have to provide there in order to go for the further manufacturing? How else it can be done? If I have to implement, or if I have to take the alternative solution, while selecting that particular alternative solution, what process I have to implement there, that can be represented by using this particular how type of question. Then question number 2, question number 1 and the question number 2, both are correlated with each other. If I will think about the place, in the place, what is the question number 1? Where else it can be done? It is not decided just now. Only question is asked. Where should be it is to be done? Where it can be done, else can be done, and where should it is to be done? So the relation between the question number 1 and the question number 2, you have to understand that, and from that particular, or by combining that particular both the relations, we have to get the final answer. Therefore the primary question is related to the question asked during the modification going on. If I am doing the modifications, during that particular modifications I am asking the all the primary type of questions. But after the modification also, if that modified method will not be acceptable, then I have to select the alternative method. And during the alternative selection of the methods, which types of the questions will be asked, that particular questions are called as a secondary questions. Therefore in case of a primary also, question number 1 and the question number 2, their meanings are correlated with each other. Means in the primary question your modification is going on, in the primary questions your modification is going on. But in case of a secondary questions, here we are thinking about the future plan. We are thinking about the future plan, means we are thinking about the alternative solutions, and during that particular alternative solutions, which types of the questions will be asked. So that questions can be represented by the question number 1 and the question number 2. So such types of the primary questions and the secondary questions we have to implement in the industry. So if I will apply this number of questions to the any method, so I will get all the types of answers. If I will apply this number of questions to the any type of method, I will get all the types of answer, and this particular process is called as a critical examination. In detail I have to go for the examinations. Up till now whatever the recording techniques we have discussed, only we have taken the overall picture. But if I have to go in detail, why, who, when, where, how, these are the questions which will give the information in detail. So if I have to go for the analysis in detail, at that time we have to implement this particular critical examination concept in the industry, in which we are applying the primary set of questions, secondary set of questions in the form of 5 WH questions and 1 H questions. So through this, or by applying this number of questions to the any method, you will get all the types of information in detail, and through this particular information, through this particular answers of all those particular questions, we can go for your further modification. So this is the second recording techniques, which is called as a critical examinations, in which we are applying the set of questions. So this is about the primary questions and the secondary questions, which is related to the critical examinations. And then the last point of this particular chapter, development and the selection of the new method. Development and the selection of the new method means, if I have to go for the modification, first of all I have to go for the modification, then I have to develop that particular method, and that new method I have to select and I have to implement in the organization. But which are the steps I have to follow? So here I have written the critical examination. It gives the number of ideas. The critical examination is one of the recording techniques. Through this particular critical examination, you will get the number of ideas. But whatever the number of ideas are available, out of that, some ideas are acceptable, some ideas we have to reject it. In some of the ideas, you have to go for the modification. Critical examination, it will give the number of ideas, but out of that number of ideas, some ideas it can be directly accepted, no problem. In some of the ideas, we have to go for the modification. Some of the ideas we can directly reject it. So if I have to select that particular idea, if I have to implement that particular ideas, which are the steps I have to follow? That steps it can be represented by using this particular chart. So here I have written all the ideas are not practicable. Some ideas are required to be discarded and others can be refined and the development. Just now we have discussed some ideas are not practicable. Practically some ideas it is not possible to implement. Some of the ideas it can be directly discarded. Directly we can reject that particular idea because it is not feasible. In some of the ideas we can go for the development, and if I have to go for the development, which steps I have to follow? So following 4 points are given. Eliminate the unnecessary operations. Eliminate the unnecessary operations. If I will eliminate all the unnecessary operation from that particular method, you will get the new method. Second, combine the operations and the element. If I am performing number of operations, and if I will perform all those particular operations on the single machine only, means I have done the combining that particular operation. That means by using the single machine only, if I am doing the operation, that means if I will combine that particular operation, whatever the time is required to perform that particular operation, it will get reduced. Then third is change the sequence of operation. Change the sequence of operation. Sometimes your raw material is moving in maximum direction. Sometimes he has to travel the maximum distance from one machine to the second to third to third. So if I will change the sequence of operation, and whatever the modified sequence you will get through this particular modified sequence, your raw material can be converted into the finished goods in minimum time, because the sequence of operation is also important for the new development of the method. And simplify the necessary operation. Whatever the operations are required, you can keep that particular operations only. Whatever the unnecessary operations are there, we can eliminate all those particular operations, means we have to go for the simplification. So if I will implement all these particular 4 concepts in the modification, then you will get the modified method, and or your ideas can be modified and it can be implemented in the industry. But in order to go for the modification, these are the steps I have to implement. So first step is evaluation. What it evaluation indicates? It is an exercise to shortlist the ideas. For example, the 10 ideas are given to you. For example, the 10 ideas are given to you, and out of that particular 10 ideas, if I have to select only 2, so what I am doing? I am going for the shortlisting of that particular ideas, and we are doing the shortlisting means we are implementing the first step, which is called as a evaluation. Evaluation means whatever the number of ideas are available with you, from that particular ideas, we have to select the best ideas which we have to implement for the further process, and that particular selection of the ideas is called as a first step, which is called as a evaluation. Then second is called as a investigation. So whatever the out of 10, if I have selected the 2 ideas, so whatever the 2 ideas we have selected, to that particular 2 ideas we have to go for the detailed investigation. So whatever the 2 ideas we have selected, for that particular 2 ideas we have to go for the detailed investigation, in which we are preparing some of the drawings. Whatever the ideas we have selected, for that particular ideas we can prepare some of the drawings, we can prepare some of the prototype models, we can conduct some of the trial tests. All the such types of the activities we have to implement on that particular ideas which are selected. So detailed investigation will be carried out based on this particular 2 ideas. Then third is called as a select. Once the detailed investigation is carried out on the both ideas, now out of that both, again we have to select only single idea. Out of that particular both ideas, I have to select the single idea. Therefore, the third step is represented by the select. But during that selection, we have to focus on the number of points. We have to focus on the production rate of that particular idea number 1 or the idea number 2. Then manufacturing cost of that particular idea number 1, idea number 2. Then total investment required for that particular idea number 1 and idea number 2. So out of that particular 2 ideas, we have to select that idea only which is to be feasible to us. For example, idea number 1, it is taking the less time as compared to the idea number 2. For idea number 1, less time is required to convert the raw material into the finished goods. Again, for the idea number 1, very less investment is required as compared to the idea number 2. That means out of the idea number 1 to idea number 2, I can select the first one for your further manufacturing. Therefore, the first step is called as the evaluation, in which we are shortlisting all the ideas. In the second investigation, whatever the ideas we have selected, we are conduct number of the tests, we are preparing the drawings, we are preparing the models in the investigation step. In the third, whatever the two ideas we have selected, out of that particular two, we have to select one idea, and once the final idea is selected, we have to go for the installation of the proposed idea. Once the last method, whatever we have selected, we are having the number of methods. From that particular number of methods, we have selected two. On that particular two methods, detailed investigation is carried out. After the detailed investigation from that particular two, I have selected the first method. And once the first method is selected, I have to go for the installation. And the last step is called as a installation of the proposed method. So here during the installation, we have to follow some of the objectives, that is preparation of the change of the proposal to the management. So whatever the method we have selected, that method we have to represent in front of management. Then second step, to prepare its implementation on the acceptance of the proposal. So we have to prepare the steps, because if I have to implement that particular new method for the further manufacturing, we have to prepare their steps at initial position, how that particular method will be implemented, at the second position, how it will be implemented. But during that particular implementation, we have to take the formal approval for the management. We have done the modification, we have developed the new method, but it is not possible to implement that particular method directly in the production department. So for that purpose, we have to take the approval from the management, and after, if the management will give the green signal, then and then only we can implement that particular new method for the further processes or the further modification. Therefore, whatever the installation process is there, that installation is also divided into two types. One is the recommendation and another is the implementation. Recommendation means whatever the new method we have developed, for that particular new method, we have to prepare one report. So whatever the new method we have developed, for that particular new method, we have to prepare that particular report. That report we have to represent in front of higher authority, or you have to represent that particular report in front of management. Then management will be review that particular report. He will go for the detailed study, and if that management will decide that now there is no problem, then that management will give the green signal about the implementation of the new method, and then we are going to implement that particular new method for your further organization. That means total 10 methods we are having. Out of that 10, we have selected 2. Again, in that particular 2 methods, again we have gone for the detailed investigation, and from that particular detailed investigation, the only first method we have selected. And now if I have to implement that particular new method for the further manufacturing, instead of implementing that particular method directly, so I will prepare detailed report. That report I will represent in front of management or in front of your higher authority. That higher authority or management will study that particular new method in detail. If that management will give the green signal, then and then only that new method can be implemented. If again that management has to go for the modification, again the modifications are done, again the new method is represented in front of management, again that management has to go for the again modification, again the modification will be carried out, again the new method will be developed. Once the management will give the green signal to implement that particular method, then we can implement that particular method in the your production department for your further modification. So these are the steps. Which are the steps? The first one is the evaluation, second is the investigation, then the selection, and last one is the installation of that particular new method. So these are the 4 steps which we have to consider in case of a development and the selection of the new method. So if I have to develop a method, if I have to select method, and if I have to implement that particular method in the industry, which steps we have to follow? So these are the 4 steps. The step number 1, evaluation. Step number 2, investigation. Step number 3, selection of one method, and after the selection, installation or the implementation of that particular new method in the industry. So these are the installation, and what is the role of that particular management during the implementation. That role of the management is also very, very important. And with this particular chapter number 2, it is over.